Recovered at a podcast. Well, who do we have
back.
here?
Dwayne Yarvin Frank and
Jason Rigby. And today we're going to get into something that I think most people don't understand. It's a paradox with addiction.
Paradox is extremely difficult to understand in general.
It's like, I'm just trying not to drink, not to gamble, not to overeat, not to smoke. Now you want to talk about paradoxes?
Yeah. My brain is already messed up enough from my selfish addiction. And now I have to think backwards.
Yes. Yeah. That seems, you had said something on previous episode, and I really, really like, where you had talked about forging a new path, and like, you're going to walk, you make the decision to walk in this new path.
Yeah.
Like you're going to take, and we had talked about it in your situation. You guys will have to listen to the story of the dead man's shoes that you experienced. But, it's like stepping into those new shoes. Maybe you can explain that for
it's
listeners.
Often in my selfishness, in my conditioned behavior, in my addiction, that doesn't manifest overnight. It takes a while for me to get stuck in a rut,
right,
and buried in my addiction, in my selfish, self-centered behavior. And the analogy is like, that's my path. Oh, I've been down that path. I know that path very well. Actually, that's Dwayne's path.
Yes.
And I've been down that path 10 million times. Right. I know every turn in the forest. I know every rock. I know every tree. I know where every bottle is. I know where every lady is. I know that path really well. And then life gets so uncomfortable. I'm graced with the willingness to try and do something different. And what that do something different starts to look like is a new path. It's like, that's a new trail.
Right.
That might even be God's path. But I've never been down that before.
Right.
I don't know the turns. I don't know the rocks. I don't know what beasts may lie down that path.
So it's fear-based.
Absolutely fear-based. The devil you know
unknown
versus the devil you don't know.
Right. Yes.
However, 10 times out of 10, if I take a spiritual path compared to Dwayne's selfish, self-centered path, my life turns out better. 10 times out of 10. And I might not know what's down that path for me, but it's very paradoxical to try and find strength in the not knowing.
Right. Abraham Hicks, this has been helping me a lot here lately. They or she,
the
Esther,
collective,
Abraham, whatever. She has this one thing that she says, and I've been using it a lot here lately for me. Does this thought feel good?
Very good. Yeah, that's wonderful. That's wonderful.
Does this thought feel good? No. Why? So it's like, whether yours was booze, blow, and vagina, mine was vagina, food, tobacco. I would use alcohol sometimes, but I never really was like super addicted to it. But I would, have fun, get drunk, and then, meet someone, that type of thing.
Yeah.
Just that pattern, weekend alcoholic, I guess you could call it, whatever. But it's so interesting to me. It's like, when I think about it, it doesn't feel good. It's not me at my best. You know what I mean? Like, I know what my best looks like because I've experienced it a few times.
Yep.
Where I've really been proud of myself. And that thought of me like feeling sick in the morning because I drank too much, or that thought of me, spitting in a can, because I just recently stopped chewing tobacco, or the thought of me, eating Krispy Kreme donuts, 6 of them in a row, that just doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
So, and the thought gets me to this donut shop. Me obsessing and running that loop of donuts gets me to the donut shop. So if I can catch it then in that moment and surrender to the thought in a good way, like surrendering to the thought is no judgment. Well, look at me. I'm just a fucked up piece of shit. I might as well go have these donuts. Or I'll do this like, well, you did this, this, and this. And you're not like, this is not so narcissistic. And you're not like everybody else. You're so much better in this, this, and this. You deserve these donuts. And it could be a bottle or whatever,
Right.
It's like, but I thought it was interesting. I was listening to a guy the other day, and I think this is going to help listeners. I want you to talk about this. He was talking about cocaine, alcohol, and women. which I thought was interesting because those were some of your vices.
That's the Holy Trinity.
The Holy Trinity. Yeah. But he was saying a lot of males use cocaine because it helps them feel more alpha, because it's been subconsciously in movies, like Al Pacino, The Godfather. So you kind of get this invincible feeling, and then it becomes a habit, like your brain gets addicted to it. And he was talking about alcohol is that social lubricant. So if you feel like, and then everything gets over abused. And then he said women a lot of time is just a mom issue.
Very good.
So if you can break it down to that level, where you could be self-aware enough to say, hey, oh yeah, I'm using alcohol as a social lubricant. I'm using blow just because I think I want to be cool or manly or whatever, and I'm using women because I have an issue with my mom, and I'm trying to seek comfort or trying to seek, I want
very good.
I want somebody in my arms to make me feel secure, and the way I get that is through alcohol, but it's so funny because it all turns upside down. It's like Alice in Wonderland. Because you can't control any of it.
Wow. That's profound.
Yeah. But I thought that was interesting. And he was talking about other things too. And I don't want to get into those. But like for you specifically, getting into what we're talking about today, the multifaceted struggle that you had, and that's in the literature here. What did that look like when you began to face it? Like face the struggle?
Yeah. There's many different levels to our dis-ease. And we like to say all the time, do you know how to navigate a spider's web? Like, me neither. No, right. I don't know how to navigate a spider's web. I just get stuck. And some of my unconscious behaviors, or maybe all of my unconscious behaviors in my addiction, help create that web.
That makes sense.
And that's what this multifaceted disease was for me. It was, there was a layer of alcoholism. There was a layer of abuse of abusing women.
Right.
There was a layer of cocaine addiction. There was a layer of money fear, and all of this stuff is kind of interwoven and sticky. And how do you start to unravel that? How do you start to pull back the layers of analysis? And usually it's like the same you would handle any overwhelming situation. We always say, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
Yes.
I was very grateful for the men that I had around me and the spiritual guidance that I was exposed to that definitely saved my life without a doubt. And one of them told me, Dwayne, if you do this spiritual work, focus on one thing right now. If your intent is pure, I guarantee you will not want a pile of cocaine if you're trying to work spiritual principles around your alcoholism.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. So work on one thing. So let's say we'll just use the booze, the blow, and the vagina. So he's like, what's the easiest one to conquer? Like blow would be easy for you more over than alcohol. Is he saying that, or am I getting this wrong?
We were focusing specifically on alcohol. And he said, it's not like you're going to get a free ride on all that other stuff.
Right.
But if you start developing spiritually, I guarantee you it's going to spill over into other areas of your life. So let's just head in this direction. Let's head in a spiritual direction. Let's head in can you make this decision based on principle rather than based on self? And that might mean like going to the grocery store. Start making small decisions based on principle rather than based on self. So if I need to go to the grocery store to get food, I should pay for it instead of steal.
Right.
That's an honesty-based principle.
So did you ever like walk past the alcohol?
Yeah. This is what I'm getting to. I used to have to navigate the grocery store with my head down because I knew where the liquor aisle was. And I would have panic attacks when I'd get in that section of the grocery store. And I would navigate the grocery store with the tile on the floor. And what worked was praying. And I would pray, God, relieve me of this obsession. God, relieve me of this obsession. God, relieve me of this obsession. As the obsession dissipated, didn't happen overnight, took about 6 months, but I was sincere in my desire to stop drinking. It hit me like a thunderbolt one day. I was a glorified pool boy, up in Taos, New Mexico, and I was cleaning the pool, and it had been about 6 months that I hadn't drank, and it hit me. I fell to my knees, and I was like, I haven't been thinking about drinking. It hasn't even entered my mind. Wow. And that was like a miracle for me. It was like, that's all I thought about all the time. I can't even go to the grocery store without thinking about this. So we get to clear away some of this blockage that I have. Let's say we have this channel, this flow connected to source. I'm connected to source energy. I'm connected to the universal power that's available to me. Well, my fear or my selfishness or my addiction can block that flow. But that doesn't mean I'm going to unclog the blockage all at once.
Yes.
So we start taking little pieces, little pebbles start to come out of that garden hose a little bit at a time. It didn't happen all at once for me. I'm not rendered white as snow. Like, I have to continue this work. So boom, I fell to my knees. The obsession of alcohol was lifted from me. Do you know what I feel when I look at a bottle of liquor now? I have the same affinity for that as I do for mayonnaise.
Well, you had a party Saturday, and you had like 13, 14 people over, and alcohol was flowing. Yeah,
a bunch of alcohol. There was wine nothing. And tequila, and I've been placed in a position of neutrality. So I just feel nothing. I'm neutral. I'm not excited about it. I'm not worried about it. I feel nothing. I can walk by the liquor aisle today and feel nothing. And that's a miracle. That recovery has given me this. I've experienced many miracles in recovery, but maybe that's one of the greatest. And that is based on spiritual development. That's based on spiritual work. That didn't happen by accident, and it didn't happen overnight for me. So that same approach to this problem of my alcoholism now spills over, if I'm interested in continuing to develop, which I hope I am, now spills over into, okay, what's the next thing kicking my ass? What's the next piece of that spider web? What's the next outline? Then what's the next outline?
Yes.
So now let's start to look at now I have to look at the women.
Yes.
I got rid of the cocaine and alcohol. I'm not using substance to feel something. Now I got a relationship. I got to start pulling back the layers of desire.
Why am I not comfortable being by myself?
Yes. I can't stand to be alone.
Right.
I have to have a woman.
Yes.
To be okay.
Somebody I need. And then I use the bed for me. Same scenario. I use the bed as like a conquering mechanism to feel like, oh, okay, I am good enough.
Yes.
And this is taking a lot of work, but I am good enough because look who's laying next to me.
Yeah.
And she loves me. So I feel great because somebody loves me.
Yeah.
But then it's still all narcissistic. Like the whole relationship, like, because I've gone through so many of them in a narcissistic way. You know what I mean? Like where it's like, I'm judging that person based off of how I feel.
Right.
You know, so the relationship side of things is totally different. The bottle or the food or the gambling or whatever, you're dealing with the static object. You know, the bottle is not going to whisper to you. You may think it does, but
I heard it a few times.
Yeah, you heard it. It's like, drink me, Dwayne,
please.
But but a person, like an addiction to a person, in a relationship, and we'll do a whole podcast on that because I think that's like addiction to relationships.
Totally,
because a lot of people have issues with that. A lot of relationships are that way, and you've seen it.
Oh yeah,
and I mean, with like recovery and all that different things. When you look at two people trauma bonding in the meeting,
yep.
So you'll see two people sitting there, then they kind of find each other attractive
all the time.
Yeah, it was funny. I was talking to somebody that was it's like, don't ever go to the sex addiction ones.
you go to that.
Could you imagine those ones?
People,
yeah, you'd almost have to keep
hard.
like I don't know how you do that. You know, like you'd have different, you know, if you're trapped into same sex or opposite sex, it wouldn't matter. You know, if you have a sex addiction and you meet somebody else that does that, that's just like a green light, you know, like yeah, it's crazy. But I think and I want to get back to the material here because I think this is so good in what you were just saying now. Breaking free from the chains of addiction is not just a matter of willpower, because there was no willpower when you're at the pool.
Correct. No. Yeah, that was just pure surrender, pure grace. That was
Isn't
not
that
me
wild?
forcing my will. No, that was a very, very powerful experience.
So it wasn't you then in that moment.
Higher self.
Yeah.
My higher self, yes, but not Dwayne and his
The
ego.
real you.
Definitely
right.
not. No, not form-based Dwayne, not the part of me that's connected to the world of form. It couldn't have been me.
Yeah, I was reading Course in Miracles this morning, and they have like, you can read it daily, like a daily thing.
Mm-hmm.
And they were saying, if I am of God,
right,
and I have the Holy Spirit, because they use Christian terminology in the Course in Miracles, which I like, then how can any of these things be done to God? So for me to seek forgiveness or ask for forgiveness, or to think that it's like, why am I angry towards that person? Or why do I feel this way towards this addiction? It's because I'm feeling separate from the addiction. I'm feeling separate from the bottle. I'm feeling separate from Dwayne.
Right.
So, but if everything is of God and the Holy Spirit is living in me and I am of God, then there is no form of separation. And that's hard to understand. So if somebody's, so let's say you've been sober for 2 years, you're in a addictive relationship, you're codependent on each other, trauma bonded.
Very normal.
And then,
very normal.
yeah, especially with addicts, I've been there. And then it breaks.
Yes.
So the first thing I want to do is go party, go get another woman right away that same day.
Absolutely.
Try to find, start texting, it's like, well, fuck, her and fuck this. And I'll go to fast food. I'm going to do all of the addictions, all of the above. And seeking comfort in that horrible situation, like she rejected me because I can't handle rejection.
Very good.
So I go right to the addiction. Where if I would look at it and understand that that is not rejection, that has nothing to do with the real me. You standing at a pool, skimming the pool. I mean, it's not like you were in church or standing before like Jesus in a Catholic church. No. You were doing nothing spiritual. You're at a pool. And it's so funny to me how higher self, in the Bible, there's a story of God using a donkey.
Yeah.
And the donkey talks to this prophet. And I always think of that, like, those are the situations, like a burning bush with Moses. Mm-hmm. It's so funny how our higher selves will use the funniest things for us to get these miracle, like, oh,
yeah, the skimmer was my aha moment.
Yeah, but isn't that, but totally. I mean, that window of grace that you call it, which I love, that was, you didn't will that. There was not enough willpower that could make that happen.
No. And often we say willpower is just me trying to fix myself and falling on my face. And then grace is allowing that power bigger than myself to heal me from the inside out. That's what I need to help heal me in this addiction. Not my willpower, not my strength. If I could just not do that thing I'm addicted to, I wouldn't be seeking recovery. I wouldn't need help. I would have balance in my life. And if I'm in my addiction, there's no such thing as balance. I'm 1,000 miles per hour. I'm going to get what I want.
Yeah. And on our podcast, obviously, if you're listening to this, we do tons of spiritual stuff. And this is what we believe. If we're making a conscious decision to surrender control, the next part of that, and we'll get into surrendering control in a little bit, but seek guidance from a higher, wiser aspect of ourselves. So when you begin to, because that obviously it's probably an elderly man, that mentor came to you and said, work on this little part, understand this, God can help you with this. When you begin to, the higher, wiser aspect of yourself, that God part, when you begin to communicate with that in your ignorance in the beginning, what type of seeking were you? I mean, you may look at it now and think it's kind of funny because you've evolved, spiritually. But in that very beginning, was it just like a simple prayer? Was it getting in touch during a meeting? Like, what was that beginning of seeking something higher than yourself?
Yeah, you know what? There was it manifested in a few different ways. One way was definitely prayer. One way was definitely reaching out for help, even if I didn't believe in the thing I was praying to, even if I didn't know it was going to work,
right?
I was still willing to try and do something different. So this addiction didn't kill me. It's like I got as close to dying and as comfortable as I can stand. So now let's start behaving differently. Do this. I was like, I don't think that's going to work. They're like, we don't care. Do it anyways.
But you did it diligently, though. You were praying 100 times.
Yeah, one of those things was praying. And I started to feel good in that moment, in some of those moments of prayer. And I know now, I didn't know then, but I know now I was starting to touch home base. I was starting to touch shoes of inner being. And I was starting to get back in alignment with my higher self. So prayer is a very good tool for us to do that. Another one was inventory and like introspection, like writing shit down. Like if spinach is kicking my ass because I have a fear of spending $4.38 at the grocery store, it was very helpful. It was a very helpful tool to learn. Write that down. Write your fear of money down. Put it down on paper. And it gave this fear someplace other than my body to live.
Yes, I like that.
Now give this emotion, give this unrealistic, this delusional thought, give it someplace other than your mind to live. And then one of the wonderful tools that I was also exposed to was now you combine those two things. So write down the thing that's kicking your ass and then immediately introduce the appropriate power that can actually help. So I would write a prayer to help with this thing that was kicking my ass. I have a fear of spending money. Immediately after, on the next line, I would write, God, shine your light. Or God, I invite you into this situation. Holy Spirit, I need your help. Or sometimes just please fucking help. Like whatever it is, I need help. And it began to build a relationship for me with my higher self.
I like that.
I begin to get in touch with the part of me that is of God through writing prayers, through writing for help.
Do you think that you, by obviously you were not surrendering, not to your willpower, but to a higher power. So that's what we're talking about today. That's the premise of the lesson. Were you even noticing that, or were you just doing what somebody told you to do in a meeting? Or were you thinking like you said, it probably won't work, or halfway bought in?
I think I started noticing it after the fact. I definitely didn't notice that I was changing and evolving. I just thought I was living life and doing what I was told to do. It was the willingness to take direction that started evolving my personal life. And I would never think about going home and writing down a prayer. It's not anything I ever wanted to do, but I was told to try it. And you start to notice the shifts in consciousness later. And then those shifts in consciousness, maybe that like you get a moment of peace, or you get a moment of clarity, you get a moment of awareness. And maybe those moments, if I continue diligent practice, maybe those moments get closer and closer together. So then I actually have a chance to see it. I have a chance to see my evolution. There's been a lot of road traffic going on today and yesterday. We had the president in town yesterday. There was a lot of traffic, and we had some crazy weather that damaged infrastructure, that damaged roads. And so the highways kind of blocked off, and people are a little nutty right now trying to get around town. 600,000 people bumping into each other. And I found myself today saying, I could make this worse, or I could just breathe. And I caught it. Like I caught my evolution. Usually I lose my shit in traffic. That's one of my triggers, spiritual practice grounds for sure. So I found myself saying, God, let them go. God, I was letting people go in front of me. I don't do that shit.
I always do. I choose not to be in this collective consciousness. This consciousness, negative, I am not going to be a part of that. And I'm not going to let that influence me, because that's huge. If you've got thousands of people angry,
collective consciousness,
and then you're on the road, that'll just like a big black cloud just come up and go right into your
and all of a sudden I'm filled with cortisol, and I don't know why. I'm like, all I'm doing is going over to Jason's, to
talk about my addiction.
I'm not taking the shoulder. Fuck this,
Yeah, then that's why I've been running that. Does this thought feel good?
Yes, yes. And that's very good. I'm glad you brought that back up. If it feels good, it feels good. And we've talked about this before, but it's worth saying again. Keep it simple, especially when I'm beginning a spiritual journey, when I'm beginning the recovery process. Keep it simple. If it feels good, it feels good. God gave me this internal barometer, and I know if I'm in alignment with my higher self because it feels good. I started feeling good writing those prayers. It feels good to let someone go in front of me instead of have a conflict where we're going to now chase each other down the highway or some bullshit. If it feels good, it feels good. If it feels bad, it feels bad. And very interesting enough, my ego can behave in a way that makes me feel bad. That's just my indication that the barometer is going off and I've stepped away. I've stepped out of alignment.
Yes.
Because if I'm in alignment, I'm feeling good. So the worse I feel, the further I'm getting from the shoes of my inner being. The more and more unconscious I'm becoming. The better I feel, the closer and closer I'm coming back to home. I'm coming back to touching source. I'm coming back to the shoes of inner being.
Yeah. And you know, like today I told you my electric bill came in $400 and something dollars for the month because it was like 105. Does it feel good? No. But I want to write the check or go online and pay it. But it's an old statement. I want to pay the bill and it feel good. I want to buy spinach for $4.38 and it feel good.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't want to have that thought of, fuck, you know, look at these avocados. And I've done that. You know, it's like they doubled in price. What the hell? You know, I eat avocados every day. Now I got to pay double the price. Really?
Yep.
You know, I don't want to go through that. Our $400 for air condition was everybody. You know what I'll do? I'll even go, I bet I have to pay the $400 and no one in the house appreciates it. You know, they didn't care. They were just complaining because it's so hot outside. But I got to, you know, then I start doing the separation thing.
You're the victim.
Yes. Then I go to victim but none of that makes me feel good.
Very good.
None of that. And because I want to get, this is a key principle, what you said, and this is the whole correlation of the lesson, is to surrender the control and seek the guidance. Surrender the control and seek the guidance. And that's the paradox that we talked about.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. My selfish, self-centered mind says, do it this way. And for an addict, the statement, I know what's best, is usually poison. I know what I'm supposed to be spending.
Yeah.
I know I don't want to cut this check.
Right.
I know. So if I know what's best, that's usually
I know
poison.
I'm right in this relationship with this problem.
Very good. That's usually poison for me.
Right.
Because then I'm in control. I need to have control of the situation. I need to have control of the outcome. I need to get what I want when I want it. And it's delusional.
Yes,
the world don't care. The world don't care. The avocados are going to go up. The spinach is going to go up. The traffic is going to be there. The world don't give a damn about how sensitive or controlling I am. So surrender to control. And what was the other side of the coin?
Yeah, surrender control and seek guidance.
Seek guidance.
Right.
So what am I seeking? What does that mean? What does it mean to be a seeker? What does that mean? It means I'm looking for that left-hand path. I'm looking for that path less traveled. It's called the road less traveled for a reason. Seek a different way to navigate the life. Abraham will say, I heard this other day. She said, we are constantly seeking the path of least resistance. That doesn't mean we said the path of no resistance. It's just the path of least resistance. A spiritual-based decision is usually less resistance than my selfish, self-centered control. That's extremely combative to try and get the world and everyone in it to behave the way I need them to behave.
And then if that doesn't happen, the trigger hits for the addiction.
And I'm the victim of the world and these outside circumstances.
So when you're playing the victim, you are hitting that trigger.
When I'm playing the victim, it's easy for me to stay small.
Oh, right.
I can stay small and then I can hide. And the way I hide is just don't feel this. Oh, I can drink. I don't have to feel this angry. Oh, I can drink. I don't have to be this afraid. No, I don't have to feel this. I can turn to my next substance. I don't have to feel this. I can emotionally eat. I don't have to feel this angry.
So I want to get into the next step, because what you're saying right now goes hand in hand with that, is the firm commitment to address.
Yeah.
So I hide behind, like you just said, and I think that's a perfect example. There was a story in the Bible, and it was to deal with King David, but he wasn't king yet. There was another guy named Saul.
Yeah.
And Saul was after David, because Saul was threatened and jealous for David. And so David was going to, they were talking about like David's going to have to kill him to become the king and all this stuff. And David's like, no. But it was so interesting. There's a verse in the Bible I thought was so cool. Saul began to see the tides turn where people were loving David and not loving him as the king. And there's a verse in the Bible, and it says that Saul went and hid in a cave with all his stuff. And I thought that was so interesting. Because this is what you're talking about. So feel sorry for myself, play victim, run away, go hide in it. He literally hid in a cave with gold or whatever he had. Probably had chests of money. I don't know what it was, but I don't want to face reality. I don't want to make a commitment to something. I can't handle this. So how am I going to address this? Well, I'm not going to do any type of work. I'm just going to drink, eat, run to the casino, smoke, whatever it may be.
If I'm,
Go ahead. What is the commitment thing like?
If I'm the victim, and then I get to hide and I get to stay small. So mustering up enough courage, enough strength, enough willingness to do the opposite of that, to live counter to the victim, means I have to start taking responsibility. What am I taking responsibility for? Well, A, my life. I want to live. I don't want to die. B, my happiness. It's hard to die on the couch drunk. It's hard to live a miserable existence where I'm constantly screwing people over and trying to figure out how I'm going to get loaded next and who do I need to steal from, what do I need to rob. It's hard. That is a hard existence. Hard to go through the life.
You called it last podcast slow suicide.
Exactly. It's
which
a
I
slow
thought that was
suicide.
awesome.
It's very hard to live that way. It's also hard to adopt spiritual principles. It's also hard to take responsibility for myself, my behavior, and my thoughts. It's hard to show up to a job day in and day out. It's hard to pay the electric bill. It's hard to suit up and show up for reality and say, this is just what's happening. It's not happening to me. It's just happening.
Right.
It's hard to live that way. So we say, pick your fucking hard. Which hard do you want? Do you want the one where you die miserable and alone? Or do you want the one that's going to bring some meaning and love and excitement into your life? The commitment piece is me saying, I want that hard, good life.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to do the things necessary to obtain it, whether I want to or not. That's what a commitment is. A commitment is, I'm going to do this, whether I want to or not. When shit gets hard, I'm still going to do it. I'm still going to go through it. I'm still going to walk through my fear. We talk about it all the time. If you want some gold in your life, you might have to slay a couple dragons.
Yeah, to get
my fear,
chest
yes,
behind
yes.
the
What is a dragon always hoarding?
Yes.
Gold.
Jewels, gold, yeah.
The treasure.
Yeah.
If you want your life to turn into something worthwhile, if you want some treasure in your life, you're going to have to slay the dragons. You're going to have to go through your fear. You're going to have to go through your selfish, self-centered behavior. You're going to have to go through your dishonesty. You're going to have to go through that, whatever, financial insecurity. You have to go through that. Can I apply a tool that's going to slay that dragon? And then can I experience the riches from that work? The prayers, writing it down. God, shine your light. God, I need your help. God, help me walk through this. And then part of that commitment piece is behaving as such. It's like, yeah, okay, I'm committed to this way of life. I'll do it. But I don't think it's going to work.
Right.
So I need to almost fake it. It's like behave in the way a man of faith would handle this situation. It's like, if God has my back and is going to catch me if I fall, how does that look? Am I acting like that? Or am I forcing shit into existence because no, he's not really going to catch me? I don't believe it. So starting to act as if I think this way of life is better is part of that process.
Yeah. What part of me is cynical about everything?
My ego, my fear, my doubt. It's a very nihilistic way to go through life.
But I've been there where everything is against me.
Yeah.
My boss always hates me. But I found out I went through multiple jobs and every single boss I felt hated me. So then I'm like, not every single one. You're coming up with that shit on your own.
Yes.
I heard something this morning that was really good. They're like, to kind of shift the paradigm and understand like what because you're basically like, there's a whole new reality. There's a whole new matrix that you can open up. But the guy was like, he's like, if you're a grasshopper with no level of consciousness or anything, your whole world is the field that you live in. That's it. Now, let's say you're a bird. Let's say you've graduated into the next life and you become a bird. You know, he's like making like a funny story. He goes, you can see the field and you're going to eat the grasshopper. You know, the grasshopper knows it has one enemy, you know, which is the bird, you know, and maybe like a mice may eat him or something. But the bird can see, flies over and sees the whole thing. Now, let's say you graduate to a human. Well, now you're seeing all different kinds of things. And he was talking about the level of consciousness that people had because a lot of people never even went 30 miles, you know, from their circle.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, unless they were nomadic or something like that, a lot of people just stayed. Or if you had a homestead, you know, you would just stay on your farm and you wouldn't go anywhere else. You may go into town, but, you know, you never went out of the state or out of the country, you know, like we do now. But I thought that was so interesting because you don't know by slaying that dragon what like level you unlock in the game that you get to go see through you becoming more self-aware. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Because in your addiction, you're the grasshopper, just see a big field. But you step out and now all of a sudden you begin to change and things begin to open up.
Yeah, that's very powerful. Another way to say that is I start to get some elevation. It's like
that's a good one.
A gerbil perspective compared to eagle's perspective. And like in my addiction, I'm just a little gerbil. I'm like, this is as big as my world is right in front of me.
I'm the victim. Yeah.
Work hard. And if I can get some elevation, get some separation from that thing that's making me spin my wheel and get an eagle's eye perspective, how important is that little thing to the eagle? He don't care. He's going to eat that shit.
Yeah.
Like that's just fuel.
That's just a meal.
That's just a meal. So getting some elevation is extremely helpful. Close resources like friendships, therapists, mentors, guides. That's a great way to gain some elevation on my selfish, self-centered, addictive behavior. Because I'm going to come to Jason with a problem. I'm going to say, can you believe this is happening, Jason? Oh my God, this thing, I'm going to kick my ass. And Jason you've often come back to me in the gym like, well, that's not that bad of a deal. You have to buy spinach to feed 5 people. Yeah. Did you know you have a family of 5 people? You know how lucky you are? You have a family that loves you and you provide for them.
But isn't that the same thing? Like, you know, whether it's me looking at the electric bill or you looking at spinach, whatever, but isn't that the same thing of like that small mole or grasshopper view?
Very narrow perspective.
It gets so narrow when you start running that scenario in your head.
So change the paradigm. I've committed to feeling good all the time. I want to write the check or pay the bill and be as neutral as I am for the liquor. I just want to feel nothing. Money is not what makes Dwayne okay. Take it. Send it where the need is. One nice teaching for us is money is just one form of energy. We've talked about this often. And the appropriate movement for energy is flow. It's like energy should flow in, but it's also going to flow out. Like it has, and it's so funny
because we get so emotional over money. And you know, like we're talking about avocados. Why did they double in price? because whether it was a natural disaster, something happened, COVID. It's like we look at luxury watches. That's kind of like a hobby we each have. Why during the pandemic did they triple in price, quadruple in price? And their prices are falling.
Yeah.
Did it have anything to do with them being better made?
Nope.
No.
Same watch.
There's no emotion with any of that. It's supply and demand. Period. There's not enough avocados, so it doubles in price. There's not enough Rolexes, or whatever brand. And so next thing you know, it 10X's in price because people want them and there's not enough of them. And then that creates a special demand, and the people will start trying to get in that hoarding scarcity mentality.
Yes.
And that drives the price up even more. But that has nothing to do. The money in and of itself, the object's inanimate. The money is nothing.
Good.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like people always say, well, how do assholes become rich? Which is funny because not every rich person's an asshole. A lot of people think that. I've met a lot of really, really good people that, and if you really think about it, most of the not-for-profits that are funded, it's not from us. It's not from you guys. Most of them are from the billionaires. They're the ones giving the money. So, it's easy for them to write a check. Well, when's the last time you wrote a small check to a not-for-profit? At least they're writing a check. You know what I mean? So they may write a $50,000 check. Well, why don't you write a $500 check? Why aren't you doing that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they're very giving, and that's a principle that they learned. And the universal laws that are out there, hermetical teachings, talk about this, is they're not, it's as above, so below. It's neutral.
Yeah.
So if you grasp on how to make money with a law of abundance, it doesn't care what type of person you are. You hit the law. You found the law. So the law is just going to promote you. That's how, but people get this whole idea of why is the world so bad? You've got Bill Gates buying all the farmland, all these conspiracies and all this stuff that's out there. And but even if they are, let's say Bill Gates is a bad guy, he seems, I don't know what type of person he is. I have no idea. He could be the nicest guy in the world, or he could be, the evil minion, or whatever. But it doesn't matter. He's just following a principle. He got lucky because there was computers in his high school.
Right.
And he started coding and going crazy on that, and then invented Microsoft. So good for him. He found a law of something that was needed, created through his creational energy, created something all totally brand new, and then got the computer, and Apple did the same. And now look, Apple just the other day, $3 trillion company.
Yep.
It's like they said it's like the 6th largest nation of wealth or something like that, or 4th or something. I don't remember the number, but isn't that crazy how we attach emotion to separate ourselves? And it's always a negative emotion. It's never like, good job for him.
For Apple.
Yeah. Good for Apple being worth $3 trillion.
Yeah.
Tim Cook, great job, CEO.
See what comes your way if you start saying, good for them. Oh, good for them. There's that we like to say, one of our nice spiritual teachings, again, flip the paradigm. Okay, this is a paradoxical approach. There are trillions of dollars in the world. I just want one. I just want 1 trillion. It's like, it's out there. Why not? Why not me? Why couldn't I work that hard? Why couldn't I be in alignment with attracting that much abundance? Bill Gates did it. Why couldn't I do it?
Yeah,
good
exactly.
for Bill. Good for Bill. We feel good for Bill. Don't. Like you said, it's instant separation. Who deals in levels? The ego. Who deals in degrees? Oh, well, he's kind of spiritual, but I'm very spiritual. The ego. Who deals in comparison? I'm going to compare my wealth to someone else's wealth.
And for an addict,
it's all ego.
If you go to meetings, you'll catch this right away.
Oh, absolutely.
Because you're going to be there like, well, fuck this guy. This guy's a fake. You're sitting there judging each person talking.
It's like that for years.
Why is this person rambling? That's not true. This, and you're just sitting there. But I mean, that's what you're doing. I'm better and separate.
What a wonderful gift it is to go into a place, offer my presence instead of offering my judgment. It's a powerful practice. It's a powerful practice because my natural inclination is to go in there and judge everything.
That's how I live my life.
Everyone lives their life that way, especially addicts. And offering my presence is a higher functioning level of existence. I'm raising the bar. I'm raising my elevation.
Right.
I'm raising my vibration. I'm not willing to roll around in the shit anymore.
That's so good. That somebody really needs that right now, because that's so important. That's a paradigm shift.
Yes.
That's a paradoxical thought.
Yeah.
Just practice that, not giving judgment.
Often, if I can, it doesn't happen every time. I'll be the first to tell on myself. I mess this up all the time. But if I can be in the moment, and if I can pray, God help me offer my presence, and I can genuinely do it instead of offer my judgment, even if something stupid comes out of their mouth, my brain or my consciousness is able to say, well, that's just where they're at right now. The stuff with the masks, people were wearing masks for the reason they had. My stuff, my judgment was like almost violent. Like, okay,
yeah,
if you're that low on the fear scale and that low on the I'm gonna get ill and die scale, maybe you should. Maybe you should get ill like trigger, and die, and please take yourself out of my way. And what I started doing is praying, God, help me not judge. God, help me not judge. God, help me offer my presence. So now when I see an individual in a mask, the tool and the mantra that comes for me now is their belief structure is just different than mine. And it's much softer. It's much less resistance. Their belief structure is just different than mine. That's not even that judgmental. It is a thought. It is a judgment, but it's definitely not violent. And it's definitely not like you should be off the face of the earth.
But I want people to understand the importance of what you're saying here, Dwayne, because you could be homeless. You could have zero money. You could feel like you're the worst piece of shit that's on the face of the earth. And you have a gift that you can give somebody. You can serve somebody right the fuck now.
Very powerful.
By just giving your presence.
Very powerful. Yes. Exactly.
Anybody can do that.
Yes. And in reality, it's the best thing you can give anyone.
Mm-hmm.
It's better than the money. It's definitely better than my fear and judgment. I'm going to give you my judgment. You better behave this way. And I'm going to let you know if you don't. So when you offer me your presence, it feels so good. I can just be Dwayne. I don't have to be any particular way. I don't have to show up great. I don't have to show up fucked up. I don't have to show up less than or greater than. I can just be the way I am. Because I'm not being judged by you. I'm not in your fear. I'm in your presence. I'm in your God consciousness. It feels wonderful to be in someone's God consciousness. And then that vibration is also addictive. That's addictive too. It's like, well, Jason's vibrating that high. I'm going to meet him there.
Right.
Yeah. It's contagious. It's contagious.
Yeah. I think that's such a wonderful practice and can be done right now. No matter how you feel, you can start helping others.
Yes, yes.
And you don't have to have anything to do it.
No.
Like you could have like $0.
And this is part of that suggestion that is like, even if you don't think it's going to work, there are people out there right now who are like, yeah, that sounds good, but bullshit. And that's always just contempt prior to investigation.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking try it. Like, don't knock it till you've tried it. Give it a try. Even if you don't think it's going to work, start offering your presence.
So like, let's say you're going into a meeting. Would you have a prayer before you go into the meeting? How do you do that?
All the time. It's exact same words. God, help me offer my presence. God, help me offer my presence.
That's a great affirmation they can say right now.
Instead of fear, instead of anger, instead of looking for how they're different from me. Instead of separation. Oh, no, I didn't do that. Oh, well, this person's all fucked up. I'm not that bad. I guess I don't even have this thing. I'm not nowhere near as bad as these people.
Just sitting there offering loving presence.
Yes, offer your love. And then another good one is God, make me of use. God, help me be useful. God, help me be useful. I can't be useful and simultaneously assassinating these people in my mind. It's not going to happen. I'm being destructive. I'm being egotistical and I'm being judgmental. So God, make me useful. God, help me be of service. That's the same thing. God, help me be of service.
Yeah, I like the word assassinating people because that's a great, when you look at an assassin, they're just like this. I've been paid to get rid of this person.
Yeah.
So my ego is an assassin. Like you can think of it that way. Is like
take you out.
I'm going to take you out. I'm taking you out of my brain because I feel shitty for myself. I'm doing slow suicide to myself. Yeah. So if I can't feel good about me, then fuck everybody else.
Yeah. I heard something very interesting the other day. I don't know if I'll be able to articulate it completely, but it's if I'm playing that game in my mind and I'm afraid of what you think of me, or maybe I have an unconscious belief that I need to behave a particular way so you like me, then I've made you the standard. For all intents and purposes, I've made you God.
Yes.
And what you think of me, well, I hope it's good. And I hope it's high. You hold me in high regard.
Yes.
So I better act accordingly. And I've just gotten way off the beam. It's like I've stepped way outside of the shoes of inner being. If you're the standard.
Yes. Instead of God being the standard.
Yes, the God-centeredness needs to be the standard. What you think of me doesn't fucking matter.
No, it doesn't.
You can like me, you can hate me. It doesn't fucking matter whatsoever.
If I'm offering presents, that thought wouldn't be there.
Correct.
You're going to have it 1,000 times. Like you're going to have to say that prayer. Like you said, God help me offer presents. God help me offer presents.
That's the retraining of the mind.
You may need to be literally doing that like a mantra on repeat in the meeting.
Exactly. We literally have to retrain our mind to offer presents rather than offer my judgment.
And those are cool because now you change the paradox. Mm-hmm. And we'll close in this. Now you've changed the paradox, and now you've said every situation used to be a trigger for my addiction. Now it's a learning lesson for me to get closer to God.
Powerful. Very powerful. What a way to go through life. That's a hero's journey.
Yes.
If you're going through life and every situation is an opportunity to offer your presence, or every situation is an opportunity to learn, grow, and expand, that's a life worth living.
But then the cool part about the paradigm is what looked like a dragon is not a dragon anymore.
It's kind of like a butterfly.
Yeah. Because it's like, oh, this is a learning lesson.
It's not even that scary.
That's what I was telling. I was facing some health issues, and I was telling my girlfriend that. I was like, these are learning lessons.
Very good.
The universe has given me the opportunity in this moment and thinks that I can handle it.
Yes.
My higher self's like, okay, Jason, here we go. Let's throw this on you. So I think it's awesome. Well, let's close in this. I want people to, if you haven't subscribed on YouTube, we're getting a bunch of subscriptions. We're also on Instagram, a Recovered Addict Podcast. So I encourage you guys, how you support us is sharing this.
Yes.
We want to be able to have, if you know someone, a family member, if you have other addicts that you know, and we believe everybody has an addiction with something, the number one thing you can do is share.
Yeah. Give this. If you think it could help somebody, maybe you have the opportunity to be the first glimpse of hope that they've heard in a long time. And our prayer is always just help us say something that's going to help somebody else.
Yeah, 100%.
And if you think it could help somebody else, then please share.